Hi there, welcome to Hey Sound Guy, the podcast where I'll be peeking down the curtains of the wonderful world of music. Each week I'll be speaking to sound engineers, music industry professionals, and musicians. We'll share some fun stories from the road and get to know them a little bit better. Our next guest is an engineer that works with me at Ronnie Scott's. He's fairly new to the game, as he said himself, but he's found his way, and he is part of the sound team that we have down there at Ronnie's. It was a lot of fun talking to him. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my good friend, Will Tanday.
Oh, thanks very much, man. Good to see you or hear you and whatnot, man. It's strange times.
That it is. How are you?
Yeah, keeping well, man. Keeping well. I've ended up having to move out of town. It's been a bit of a weird one for me because obviously I'm renting and I've only just gone self-employed, so it looks like I am not going to be in line for much help when June comes around and all this stuff comes out. So it seems like realistically the best thing for me to do is just take a pause.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 100%. Why not? There's a lovely backdrop you got there. Where are you?
I'm at my mum's in a lovely barn and conversion up in the countryside. She's got all the good stuff. There's a cabinet with guns behind me that belong to her fellas and stuff, like animals all over the place, man. It's a really nice place to be quarantined, that's for sure.
So when shit hits the fan, I'll know where to come.
yeah, that's exactly. I mean, it's great for like, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm constantly on, the WhatsApp and all that sort of thing, I wouldn't even know this was going on.
Yeah.
We're so tucked away out in the countryside.
I think it's sometimes good to just take a little break, a little pause from the news and from everything, because the problem, I think the biggest problem is that the amount of misinformation out there is just
absolutely
trying to sift through all that shit. It does your head in, and then it just causes more stress and more anxiety and more. I think as long as we kind of deal with it in a positive and creative way, and we stay home as we're supposed to, go take a walk. That's fine. You should do that. Enjoy the sunshine, but not to be too connected, and because at the end of the day, it's just going to drive you insane.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you've got to, like, for me personally, I'm keeping an eye on a couple of key little things, couple of key figures and numbers, and that's pretty much everything. Like, both the people I'm living with, my mum and her fella, are both NHS staff, so like, their kind of understanding of it is a different level to mine altogether.
Of course, yeah.
And so it's sort of they're keeping up with certain figures, and that's pretty much the basis of the discussion from then on. And then, like, after that, because there's so much other stuff going on, like this place is huge, their garden is massive, so I can go for a walk just around the garden.
Man, that is so great.
I was living in a 1-bedroom flat in Hackney at the top floor of an apartment, like of an old school council block beforehand, and this was my alternative. I had to swallow some pride, no doubt, but yeah, like.
I think in the long run, it's going to benefit you so much more. Then can you imagine having been cooped up in a 1-bed flat by yourself on the top floor, not being able to go out for fucking? Well, they've just said on the news that they're extending this for another 3 weeks at least. So
that's long. It's a long time to be stuck in
man.
We've got no work. There's nothing for us to do work-wise, so there's very little for us to do in terms of occupying our time, except for just trying to scramble to do all of our hobbies really quickly.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's been like that.
Yeah, no, it's but it's. I tell you what, man, I'm very, very happy for the time to do things. I've got a million projects that I never had time to do, and now I'm finding some time to do it, and also, I'm enjoying spending time with my daughter.
Of course, yeah. Well, I mean, like, if you've got kids, this is an amazing time to reconnect with them. If you like, if you work a lot or your hours don't quite match up or whatever, like, it's a great time for that. I mean, obviously, I'm guessing there's a whole heap of people suddenly discovering that stay-at-home parent is like a legit job now.
100%. Yeah, 100%. But
I don't have them myself, but like I can imagine that all of a sudden people are realizing, oh, right, so that's what you do all day when you're at home.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not just scratching one ball and then the other ball, and it's a full on job.
I can totally imagine. I mean, I've looked after my cousins, and like I can give them back, so that's a whole different level. But even that, you learn a lot about how much work goes into it, man. Yeah,
and how far your patience can stretch.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is where that edge of being a parent comes in, because when you're in my position, you're like, my patience is thin. If I hadn't made you, things might be
right. That's right. Otherwise, I would have smacked your head upside the wall.
That's it. I'm pretty sure my mum would say the same thing if she walked in now.
Yeah. One of the best ones I've seen so far is I'm gonna ask my mum if her offer to smack me into next year is still available.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I'm in the ideal opportunity to ask her to do it. We all need that. We all just
right there.
Fast forward. Skip chapter.
She'd probably love that. She's like, well, this one didn't work. Let's try another one. Try another one, Will.
I've got a stick in the garage. Let me go and get that.
Stick doesn't work. Damn, stick broke. Let's get a cricket bat.
Yeah. I've got one knocking around. She'll find that somewhere.
Oh, man, sure. I tell you what, that's not fun. When I was in high school, first year in high school, I had it sort of happened through a long story that I ended up being friends with all my sister's friends, and they're all 2 years older than me. And coming from a small town, and we're all ruffians. I remember one Friday night, I was sitting at home because my Friday nights consisted of sitting at home listening to the radio, just fucking having a good time by myself. Anyway, so here bursts in three of my mates, and I'm talking like these guys are fucking giants, and they're like, "Oh, a cricket bat," and they just start fucking having their way, dude, going to town with a fucking cricket bat wherever. I'm like, ah! And then the one guy he holds me up by my feet upside down, and the other one's just like laying into me with a fucking cricket bat.
Bloody hell!
Yeah, that was
I haven't got the padding. I haven't got the padding to take a beating like that, man. I'm all skin and bones. I just get snapped in half.
I probably grew some padding after that.
Maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe I do need to ask for a beating.
That's right. Next thing, Mum, get that cricket bat.
I'm in Lincolnshire right now, man. This is Brexit central. I reckon if I go out and shout at some people, I could probably get beaten quite easily around here.
Just sneeze in someone's direction.
Oh yes, that'd be the key. Just run up and cough all over stuff now.
My lord! Oh my lord! Right. So how I normally start this thing is if you can introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit how you got into this lovely world of music and sound engineering.
All right. Okay. Well, yeah. My name's Will. I'm basically sort of born down in Kent and then travelled all over the country as places to live. Like I worked in a bunch of other stuff, and I essentially was looking for something different. And a friend of mine discovered this sound engineering course that was going on down in Plymouth, and he went off down to it. And I kind of thought I wanted to do the same thing because it seems like something that was very interesting to me. And so I popped down there the following year, did the interview, got in, and then there was a 2-year course. And essentially after that course, I didn't want to apply for a proper job.
Right.
I moved home, and it was like, all right, get a proper job, get yourself a job, get some money coming in. And I just refused point blank to apply for anything that wasn't related to sound engineering. So it was TV, a couple of music studios. I focused on TV because I didn't have a musical enough background. There was nothing that I'd come through musically that made me feel like I'd be able to compete at that sort of level, really.
Gotcha.
Like just fresh out of college with a BTEC or whatever, not even a traditionally sort of recognized qualification from when I was a kid. All it was GCSE, A-level, and your degree.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these other things came in. But I ended up applying for a bunch of jobs, got a runner's position at a post-production facility in the West End.
Nice.
And it all started there, really. I survived 5.5, 6 months there and ended up picking up a job as a trainee audio dubbing mixer at Sky.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean that was a ridiculous set of circumstances that ended up just falling into my lap in a certain way, because there's a lot of luck involved in this sort of game. Like you put yourself in the position to be there, but
Yeah.
at the same time you have to have the events unfold in front of you sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think it's there's a lot of that, but it's also it's kind of 50-50. You were there, and you were
Exactly.
if
You were good enough to be thought about, or you would put yourself in the position. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
But
it is definitely. I mean, myself, the way I got into this was also I feel very lucky and fortunate, and I kind of feel like I cheated a little bit, but I did. I did.
I know that feeling.
When I was at college, we had a choice module of work experience, and nobody wanted to do it. So I approached my tutor, and I said, "Listen, if you can get me anything, go for it." And he got me a job with Nijo. It was supposed to be one day going and helping Tim. Basically, well, I didn't know Tim then, but I met him on that trip.
Oh, right.
And I mean, Tim was feeling under the weather. I ended up mixing the show. He was happy, and Bill, Miles's dad, Bill Ashton, he is the founder of National Youth Jazz Orchestra.
Yes, yeah.
He was happy, and he started getting me in straight away. So I started working. It was work experience, but it was a paid work experience gig as well.
Oh, fantastic! Man.
So and they started getting me in straight away. And about 2 weeks after I finished my degree, Bill called me one day. He's like, "Oh, why don't you go down to Ronnie Scott's, meet Miles? Maybe they've got something for you. Just have a chat. Show your face." And I walked in there, and they were like, "Oh, okay. So do you know the LS9 desk?" Like, not really, but I can figure it out. And they're like, "Okay, set it up upstairs. Check it out." This was a Tuesday, I think, a Monday or a Tuesday. And they, well, then just come back on Friday. We've got a little gig for you upstairs. And it was the salsa. And that was it.
Of course,
yeah. But I mean,
that's amazing.
This was the days when the salsa band was still a 12-piece.
Right.
Yeah. No, they had them big back then, and it was no sound check. So first gig at Ronnie Scott's, I was a little bit nervous when all these musicians start turning up, and I'm like, "Fuck, what am I going to do?" But I guess I must have done something right because I'm still there. That's why I've got
this is it.
Soft spot for the salsa night, man.
I had noticed that, man. I have to say I had noticed. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it's that thing again, isn't it? It's about being given the opportunity, but then when you were given the opportunity, you performed up to a certain standard that literally just made the luck pay off. Yeah,
it's it's that, and also your attitude, I think, has got a lot to do with it, because you get to see guys who have the talent, but their personality department is kind of on the nearly depleted level. So great. So you got the opportunity at Sky to work as a trainee.
Yes.
Was it a trainee? Okay. Need to fix your charger. Is your battery going to die?
The battery's dead, but the charger's plugged in. Something's wrong with it, man. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. We'll just keep going until you die, and then I'll find someone else.
All right. I'm not sure how much I've got left. Let me check. I've got 11%.
Okay. So the charger's not charging at all?
No. I need to have a look at it, man. The electrics in this house are a bit funny.
Okay. All right.
Just give me 2 seconds. I can probably fix it.
Okay.
I'll be back in 2 seconds. Sorry, dude.
No, I'll just pause.
Wasn't on, but it's cool.
It's cool. On now. It's charging.
Yeah. It's all good. We're back up. Back
up and running. Yeah, that's one of the things about being out in the sticks, right?
Well, that's one of the problems. I mean, like, my phone hasn't been able to charge to 100% for like the first 3 days that I was here, just because it takes too long to get all the way up there. So it's been a bit of a nightmare.
Just get yourself a nice long cable, mate.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. All of a sudden now, you're just like, right, okay, I've got all the time and the opportunity to luxurize my life.
Yeah.
Like,
Or you get yourself a little solar panel. I don't know where mine is. I've got a little solar panel. It's about yay big, and it
oh, really?
charges perfect, man. It's great. It's I always have it in my bike satchel, um, just in case I'm out somewhere and.
Yeah. Oh, I might have to look into getting one of those, man. It's well worth having. Like, it's these power banks and stuff like that. They've become really, really really useful these days. It's unreal how powerful they are.
Yeah, our phones have to be charging so much they might as well be landlines, right?
Exactly. They might as well be corded. They might as well be corded phones now. Yeah. It's so true. We've come full circle.
Yeah, and then as soon as the new update goes, your phone, if it's more than a year old, just like.
Oh, mate, I have this problem with all of my equipment. It all still works. My iPad, my laptop, they're all still working, but they're models from 5 years, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And getting to really close to a point where I'm not going to be able to update the operating system anymore and stuff like that. It feels like a bit of a trap.
It is, mate. It's designed that way. Well, I mean, I've got my iPad that I bought as well, maybe 8 years ago. It was the iPad Mini 2. So you know how bad it goes. But I only use it really for to control my XR18 in the studio.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I use it for, controlling the desk at Ronnie's or wherever I go. So as long as the firmware there is okay and the desk's firmware doesn't get upgraded all the time, it works fine. I was silly. I never play games on this thing because it was it's a work thing. And one day I was home and I was bored and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to play a little game. And I got this game and I got so excited. I was pressing so hard, I fucking broke the screen with my thumb. I was like, okay, well, no more games, thank you. Yeah. So the whole screen was shattered. Like the one place where I pressed my thumb too hard.
Spiderweb.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So yeah, that's now staying in the studio. It's not even going anywhere anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this you've got a whole lot of sort of issues with the. Did you have any issues with some of the functions on the older iPad at all? Like, I find that I've had some issues with like the tap tempo and stuff like that.
Oh, right. See, I don't use it that much for anything really. It's a remote for the faders most of the time, but and nowadays at Ronnie's we've got the iPad there, so I'll just use theirs because the thing is, you use your own stuff. There's no insurance or whatever. You fucking break it. That's it.
Like, if it slips out of your hand on stage, that's it. Yeah, you've just got to buy yourself a new one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I did design an iPad holder, which is in its final stages of production. For that reason,
I was going to bring that up just a second ago. It's why I got all awkward because I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to mention that."
Oh no, it's all cool, man. It's kind of in the final stages, and now my designer obviously has got some time because he teaches at Brunel University. And he teaches 3D CAD and all the 3D printing stuff and all the design things. So he's got a bit of time now to get it through. Hopefully, by the time we get out of Corona, I'll have a solid prototype. I've got about 6 prototypes lying around.
Yeah, I can imagine, man.
It's how it goes. It's a long process, but it should hopefully. I mean, I own the patent to it, so it's all good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing this, man. I've seen sort of patches of the work in progress as it's come through. I'm looking forward to seeing the final product.
Myself as well, to be honest with you. I can't wait to see the end result. I guess I'll unveil it on here one day when it's finally done. But the problem with that is it's gonna cost a bit of money to go into production. So I'll probably get a couple of working prototypes and then maybe do like a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe or something like that.
Crowdfunder or something like that, man. Definitely worth looking at, because
engineers, you spend how much money on an iPad or a tablet, whatever. You're not going to mind spending another 35 quid for something that's an actual thing that helps you and protects your equipment.
This is the edge, isn't it? It's the fact that it's so practical in the sense that it gives you all of that flexibility that you need in terms of using it the way we use it as engineers. And so instantly that extra bit of money doesn't just give you, I can put something over the screen. This becomes literally a utilitarian piece of equipment.
And the easy release is, I think it's probably the best selling point. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you updated on how that goes.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Yeah.
So when you went, you got this job at Sky. Where did you go from there? How did that work out?
Well, unfortunately, it didn't work out as I'd hoped it had. I joined at a kind of an interesting time for the company. They were doing an awful lot of big things. They were in the pipe. There were a lot of things in the pipeline, a lot of things that were theoretically going to happen down the line. And for me, there was an opening which closed. There was an opening and someone else got the job. There was an opening and someone else got the job.
Right.
And in the end, it got to a point where my frustrations ended up affecting my motivation to push that little bit further, to do all the other stuff. And in the end, my job ended up being made redundant.
Right.
The job that I was doing in the meantime while I was training as a dubbing mixer. I mean, in that time, I had done some of the decent work there. I'd made some promos. I'd done some work for Soccer AM, recorded voiceovers with some quite big deals.
Very nice.
So there was some good stuff there. Like there was a decent exposure to the equipment and all that sort of thing. So that was really nice.
Fantastic.
And in the end, when I got made redundant, I think I was at a point where I was ready to go.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So when I did, I ended up chasing one singular line that I'd had, which is a project I was working on at the time as a sort of producer engineer for a friend's band. And we did a gig. I met a guy who was the in-house engineer at one of the venues that we played. He ended up asking if I'd be willing to do the occasional cover shift. And I did.
That. Yeah, right. So who was this and where was this?
This is, his name's Jim. He's the engineer at Paper Dress Vintage, which used to be in Shoreditch and is now in Hackney.
Okay.
It's basically a clothes shop that turns into a venue.
Okay.
And I learned essentially how to do the live version of the job, or the live music version of the job rather than the recorded TV version of the job. Yeah, I learned how to do that through him.
So big up to that guy, man.
Yeah, man, he was the one who got it all started for me. Literally got it all started. He was throwing me jobs left, right, and centre, and literally offered to up that whenever he could when he found out that I was being made redundant. So he gave me a lifeline at a time that could have been terrible.
That's fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, so I've done everything I can. If there's ever a job that's like, he can do and I can't, and it's well paid or whatever, he's always one of the first people I go to, other than our mutual friend Simba, who was the second person who just opened networks up that I never thought I'd ever see.
He's quite well connected, Simba, man.
Oh, it's huge. Everyone knows him.
Everyone knows him. Yeah. It's crazy. I was speaking to Joe Sam. You know Joe Sam, the bass player. He's like, I've known Simba like 18 years, and it's brilliant. He's known him from back in college days, and they have a mutual friend. So, yeah.
I mean, he's incredible, man. Like he was running a venue, or was the head engineer of a venue in King's Cross called Saria, which is now closed.
Yeah, that was a bit of a controversy going on there as well.
Oh, that was a strange place. I became his sort of first cover engineer for that
Nice.
place
Very nice.
after meeting him through Jim, and I ended up sort of being there for a lot of the stuff that the club did, and it was a very strange place. I will say that there was some lively characters that used to turn up.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that was basically where it went from there. After having met Jim and done a few gigs at Paper Dress, I met Simba, who over time I discovered worked at Ronnie's, and of course you tiptoe around that very carefully because the man has done so much for me already. I don't want to go like treading on any toes here or anything. But in the end, I plucked up the courage to ask him if I could come and shadow at Ronnie's one day with him, and I was upstairs. Doing, I can't remember which night it was. I think it was TV nights we did.
Right. Yep.
And I'm helping him out at the end of the night. And this comes back to what you were saying earlier about it's your attitude that will take you places in this sort of game.
Yep.
I happened to be there the night after somebody else had shadowed with Tim downstairs and gone home at 8 p.m.
Yeah. Oh, it happens. It's happened to me so many times. Over the years, I like to take on work experience people, because to me, it doesn't cost anything to teach someone and show someone around. I feel like it's giving back.
Absolutely.
I enjoy doing these things, and whenever somebody wants to come and shadow, somebody wants to come and do some work experience, I'll never say no. And yeah, I mean, it really depends on that first sort of encounter and that first day that they're there. If if they're sort of like by 4 p.m. they're already sort of like looking at their phones and already like, got to get home for dinner, and I'm like, okay, bro, yeah, it's fine. You're free to go whenever you want. You're free to stay as long as you want. But and then if this is the way that it is, unless they've got a legitimate excuse, unless they come in and say, listen, man, I can be here for the sound check today, but I have to leave at this time, but then tomorrow or the day after I can come back and I can stay the whole time. Like, yeah, fair enough. You got things. You didn't know how long it was going to take.
Lives. Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. But if somebody's just sort of like doesn't really seem interested, there's not very many times I get those back. But then the ones that do come back, I've showed a few people around, and 3 or 4 of them are now working professional sound engineers, which is it's a good thing, and
it's nice to see, isn't it? It's always really nice to hear that someone that you've shown the ropes is doing really well off the back. But I feel like a proud father.
That's right, lump in the throat.
Yeah, but I mean, this was it. This is exactly the situation I found myself in, where Tim had somebody who'd gone home early the previous day, and at 3 a.m. I'm downstairs with Simba putting away all the microphones from the night upstairs.
Yep.
At which point Tim just turns around and says, "Oh, have you been shadowing?" I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Right, well, if you ever want to shadow with me, feel free." And that was it. The door to Ronnie's became open for me, essentially, which was incredible. Like, it blew me away. It still does, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, that place was a temple I never thought I'd see the inside of when I was a young'un. And yeah, to be working there is incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's a good place, and there's it's a good solid group of engineers who are also nice people. We all get along really well, which it really helps, even though we don't all see each other all the time, but we're all aware of what the other one is doing, and we're always happy for the other people, and helping each other out. And I think it's a good thing. It's a good community that we got going there. Right. So then you got in with Tim. How long ago? This is about 2 years ago. 18 months, 2 years ago?
About 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years. Possibly a little bit more than 2. But it would be around 2 years ago, yeah. Okay. I've only been doing this freelance for about 4 years. So it was within the sort of first 2 that I met Tim and started slowly working my way into doing a few shifts at Ronnie's.
Grand, man. Grand.
And there's been the problem was the independent venues being closed down in the early stages of my career made me quite worried about whether or
Pursuing.
not, whether I was going to be able to stay safe in this new game I was playing. And so I branched out as much as possible into sort of corporate AV kind of gigs, which I ended up finding again via Simba, but also through Steve Burnley, as we call him.
Yep.
But yeah, he ended up needing a person at the last minute. Asked Simba. Simba couldn't do it. Simba passed it on to me. And
Is this with the Dark Blues?
No, this is with Historic Royal Palaces. Just
right.
Bog standard corporate AV. Most of the time, you're lugging a PA up an old castle staircase for 5 minutes worth of speeches or whatever it might be.
Yep.
But it's a great place to have on the CV, and as a result of that, a lot of other stuff has come in. I'm doing some conference work with the King's Fund in Cavendish Square, which is a hospitals fund charity that was set up well before the NHS was instigated. So a lot of that is medical, and obviously coming from a medical background, I have a kind of an interest in that on a sort of amateur level, for want of a better phrase. And so, yeah, between the sort of smaller independent venues doing music and the corporate gigs, that's kind of how I'm earning my grain, as it were.
I hear you, man. Right. So you mentioned medical background. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, my mum is or was a sonographer. So she scanned pregnant ladies essentially for most of her career. Ended up working in a more sales-based field for some of it, and in these later stages of her career, she's now doing back to just scanning babies almost for fun kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But as a result, my youth was spent in a hospital social club surrounded by people in that field. Conversations over the dinner table about bowel movements were not unusual by any stretch.
If you have kids, then it's definitely not unusual.
Yeah.
Or if you've got Italian family, that's also, is
that
yeah. No, talking about bowel movements is kind of like a regular thing at the dinner table. Don't be squeamish, otherwise, stay away from the Europeans.
There's quite a good pun there. There's quite a good pun you may not be aware of, but talking about bowel movements being a regular thing, I quite like that.
Yeah, well, it is a regular thing. Should be. Otherwise, you got yourself some trouble there.
Yeah, quite. Well, I mean, this was one of the most sort of fascinating things about it for me was that as a tiny child, I used to identify parts of my body by their medically correct names.
Nice.
So if I fell over and hurt myself, I would have hurt my patella,
right,
or my mandible, or like
that
sort of thing.
Damn.
Yeah, I'd hurt my patella or my mandible instead of my knee or my chin, basically. Like,
I gotcha.
That was how it was. That's how it was when I was a tiny young'un. But my mum, bless her, she's an idealist, and she's always seen the problems that are inherent within the NHS. And as a result of that, she must be arguably one of the only Indian parents on the planet to not recommend her child go into the medical profession. So as a result, I kind of ended up looking for
as a sound engineer.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened. I don't think I know a single sound engineer who really knows how it happened, to be honest with you. They just seem to have fallen into it one way or another.
Well, not really. I think, the sort of the opportunities that are presented and, ending up where you are, those are kind of circumstantial, I think.
Yeah.
But for myself and a lot of the other people that I've spoken with, it's kind of been, a focus or a sort of like a goal. For me, it was definitely, since I started in the world of sound engineering, I started in a church doing the sound for the sermons and stuff and recording the sermons when I was about 15. And ever since then, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to be.
Yeah.
But when I was a little bit younger than that, I wanted to be a radio DJ.
Really?
Yeah. When I was 13, 14, I was, like I said, I spent a lot of time listening to the radio and, being sort of um, maybe a bit of a loner and isolated. Well, I mean, the isolation was due to sort of health reasons, but I I listened a lot to the radio, and I was like, man, that could be fun. And the guy who got me into sound engineering, my friend, he also DJ'd at school because we've got, it's kind of like if you would imagine like, these spring dances and the proms and the stuff you get in America. We had these dances, which we call them sockies, which is kind of like socks. I don't know why it's called socks, but that's what we call them. And yeah, so we had these dances 2-3 times a quarter. And they could be either formal things like a Valentine's ball, or it could just be like a totally relaxed dance where everybody just goes and we just dance all night. Sort of. And yeah, he used to do a bit of DJing there. So I was like, man, and I idolized this guy. Unfortunately he's not with us anymore. But yeah, I fucking idolized this guy and whatever he did. And I was always like interested in sort of following this kind of line. But as soon as I started in the sound engineering, I was like, this is it. And the kind of the break that I took from it was basically to go and earn money so I could study sound engineering.
In a way, that's exactly the same story as mine, except for the fact that I didn't really find out A, what it was, and B, how much I wanted to do it until I was much later along in my life. I was in my early 20s when I discovered what it was.
Yeah.
I tried to follow academic paths previously because I'd been reasonably bright at school, Asian kid.
Well, you're an intelligent guy, man.
Well, I mean, I'm all right. I'm doing okay. I can interpret basic patterns. Is kind of. I don't know, man. I know some really intelligent people that will humble you real quick when you try and debate them.
Well, you can just take the idiot way and just say no. It's not like that. It's like that. Stamp your feet.
Well,
that's the easiest way.
I wish I could. Sometimes I genuinely wish I could.
Yeah, no. You've got integrity. You got to see this thing through. Yeah. So you were what kind of academic paths were you pursuing?
Whichever ones I was being told to, really.
Okay. Okay.
It was an interesting position, man. Like culturally, back in the earlier stages of the sort of straight up migrants, and then the first generation kind of era of us there, we were a lot more beholden to our own culture. We hadn't quite integrated as deeply as we have now. And so when my mum got divorced way back when, there was a whole big hoo-ha about it. And culturally...
Yeah, that's a no-no.
It is massively a no-no. And as the son without a father, there are a lot of people who felt they had an input on my life. And in order to be sort of, just keep a quiet life for everybody, I just did what I was told for a lot of it, which is part of the reason I buck so heavily now. It's why I'm so angry about everything now, was because I placated for a long time and I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so there was a whole thing about where we were, our position in the family and stuff. So I was just trying to do whatever kept everything quiet.
Just kidding.
I went with the academic route. I've spoke fluent French for a long, long time. So I just studied French as my thing. I'm a lazy man too. So I was like, okay, I'm good at French. I can do this. So I'm just going to do the French thing, and then they're going to stay off my back, and I'm going to get them bits of paper everybody wants, and everything's going to be fine. But I moved further and further along the education process and realized more and more that it wasn't what I wanted to be doing, or at least it wasn't what I wanted to be learning. And so once I realized that, then everything changed. I kind of went off the rails a little bit, got sent away to India for 2 months, and came back and kind of found my direction a little bit more, and then bumbled my way down to sound engineering, did this thing at college. And within the first hour of the first lecture, all I could think of was, oh my God, I'm in the right place. I spent my entire childhood playing with the graphic equalizer on my aunt's hi-fi.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're just like, that's what this is. This is making stuff sound nicer.
It's a eureka moment.
Yeah, it was. And that was when, the moment I discovered that there was a whole path possible in this career, in this industry, that was when I decided that was what I wanted to do.
Great, man.
So it's the same things as what you had, but just in a very different order. And for a long time, I didn't even know there was a career path in this world.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it is. It's like that. I think I see a lot of people kind of get discouraged, maybe because some of the people that I work with and that I encounter, and they're sort of like, well, I'm 25 now, and I still haven't made it. And look at this one who's 23, 24, and they're already there. Like, the most important thing that I can tell you, and that I tell my daughter all the time, is that everyone has their own journey. You good there? Right.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own journey, and everybody has their own time. And there's different circumstances for every single person, right? So to compare yourself to your peers it's a fool's errand.
Absolutely.
You can draw inspiration from people you find inspirational, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. And to aim for, a similar level or a level above or whatever you do, it's good to have those, but never compare yourself to your peers because, like you said, you got sent away to India for 2 months and you got this and you got that. So even if you were, let's say you were in a hypothetical race, with somebody else who started at the same time, and, you end up 2 years down the line and you kind of compare, where's this guy and where am I at? But you've had different things happen to you, different responsibilities, different life changes, all sorts of things that are factors that are out of your control, or that are, it's just how it goes. And I see a lot of people get discouraged, and they get almost, to the point where they're dissuaded from pursuing this path because this hasn't happened for me yet. And look at this guy's younger than me and he's already accomplished so much more. But you don't know that person who's accomplished so much more. Maybe that's all they ever had to do. They had the freedom, financial freedom, social freedom, any kind of to then pursue that path, or to have 8 hours a day to practice their instrument, or to, whereas you had to work for 8 hours a day and then study and then commute back, to and from work. And then you put in 2 or 3 hours into your instrument. Yes. If you look at the two of you and where you were on one specific subject in 2 years' time, you would be behind. Right. But if you just look at you from yesterday or you from a week ago, if you're ahead of that guy, you're fucking winning, man. And I think that's the only way to ever, and only person to compare yourself with is the you of yesterday.
Absolutely. The only competition you can ever really run is the one that you have with yourself.
Yeah, man.
Like that's always been my philosophy. It's always been a case of, well, are you doing better than you did yesterday? Then you're still facing the right direction.
Yep, you're fucking winning.
That's all there is, man. That's all there is. And like for me, it's been wonderful. I feel like I've been doing really quite well, coming out of a redundancy and then ended up in a solid job that literally only the coronavirus could stop.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. A fucking pandemic stopped it.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, all right, look, just stop. Take a minute, Will. This one might not be your fault, man.
Yeah, you didn't fuck it up. You were good. Everything was fine. You had work in the books.
Exactly.
Oh, so, man, it's insane the amount of work that people have lost. When this thing was still sort of like heading up to boiling point, maybe about a week or so before it finally hit the fan. I'd spoken to people like Matt Gush and other friends of mine who have had already at that stage work cancelled, to the sums of between £5,000 and £10,000, right, of work already
Huge.
cancelled then. And I was like, man, I'm so fucking fortunate that I've only had one gig cancelled, and then within a week, like everything just went like, shh.
Yes. Same for
And
me.
your diary is clear. So 9 a.m., get up, 9:30, have a coffee, then start doing whatever else it is that you're going to do. I think I'm going to finish my mobile podcast studio today. I'm busy.
When you're out on the road, is it?
Yeah. I bought a little sort of pelly case, and I'm building everything in. I had a spare or a second screen that I use for my MacBook, because when I do the video editing, it's really difficult to do it on one screen.
Totally.
So I've got my studio computer, and it's got two screens, and that's fine. And I've got another screen which was just a little bit too big to fit in the lid of this pelly case that I got. Right. And I've been sort of looking at it and umming and ahhing, and I kind of get like that when an idea gets in my head, that's like it'll be in there even in my dreams. So last night, after having looked at the screen one more time, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the whole fucking plastic frame off the screen and see if the screen by itself is going to fit in there, and it fits perfectly. So I'm super stoked. And I in my road, I found this fucking beautiful. Look at this beautiful piece of wood I found yesterday, and that is just the right size. So I'm gonna start building a little frame for it once we're done here. And I found some pellets, because I'm like a pellet magpie, where as soon as I see somebody leave a pellet on the side of the road, it's on the shoulder, and I carry it back home. And just before I called you, I was in the process of making taking the planks apart. So I've got planks stacked up against my wall for whatever it is that I want to do, whatever idea I get in my head. I've got wood to do that. I've always been, as you can see behind me, I've got the saw. It's nice just to have that. I think maybe one day when I'm big and grown up, I'd like to have a workshop, but that's in the future.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've all got the plans and the projects for when we've got that extra room on the house or whatever it might be. Like it's mad like that, man.
Well, I don't have an extra room, so I just built a treehouse for my daughter, and I just fit everything in there.
See, this is it. Yeah. It's definitely for you, dude. It's definitely for you.
I built her a collapsible bunk bed in the treehouse, and a collapsible sort of table it's bolted to just in front of the window. It folds down, but because I don't know, like it stands like this. This is the window bit, so it stands like this, and these legs fold up flat against the table. Then it folds like that, so the legs are behind the table, up against the wall, creates a little shelf and everything. So I'm super stoked about that.
Amazing.
And just building things. I mean, this table was built. This thing was it's all pallets and stuff. People leave nicest wood just lying there.
People don't know how to build stuff. I mean, that's one of the things I'm loving about being back here. Like I'm helping mum in the garden, building strawberry beds, digging up plants and moving them around the place. Nice. Like there's a whole list of projects here of doing stuff with my hands that I haven't done in years, and I'm really looking forward to it, man.
There's a satisfaction that comes from just standing back and looking at something that you built, and you're like, fuck, man, I made that.
Absolutely.
It's great, and it keeps us busy, keeps us outdoors a little bit. We're so fortunate that we've got a backyard, mate. I feel so sorry for people who don't have a backyard. People who live on the 2nd, 3rd, 17th floor, in a fucking building. Can you imagine?
I was up on the 4th floor of a building. We had a communal outside area, but we were told we weren't allowed to do anything to it. So I couldn't even put plant pots out there to look after.
All right.
It was very odd, very odd.
Well,
But,
that one's gone now, so I'm sure
that's no longer an issue. I'm outside. I'm outside more of the day than I am in now. So
it's
it's
fantastic.
fantastic.
And it's spring, summer's approaching. The weather's been so nice. It's really, even yesterday when it was a bit colder, the sun was still shining. It was beautiful. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Man.
And I've got a target at the end of the yard, so I do my archery every day.
You can see the arrows in the background there.
Yeah. These are, and I've got my daughter's arrows because I got her a bow as well, a little compound bow for the kids, 12-pound draw weight, and she's loving it. She's loving it.
Oh, I bet she is. Yeah, I would do if I was a young'un with a compound bow, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
That'd be great.
I remember my old man made me a bow of bamboo when I was a little bit younger than she is.
Wow.
And that was great. That was fantastic. I enjoyed it. And then I got too strong for it and I pulled it too far and I broke it. But, whatever.
Boys grow up, don't they? That's how they do.
That they do. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in small towns and farms and stuff like that. So it was always a thing that we did. We played outside and we played rough. We built things and broke things. And a mate of mine, when I finished high school, I went to work on a mate of mine's farm. His dad gave us 4 hectares of land to plant pumpkins so we could raise money to buy tickets to go to America to go work there. In between the time that we did, because we planted every seed by hand and we weeded everything by hand. We didn't have any implements, no tractors or anything to do these things. Right, yeah. So that was quite labor intensive. But as soon as we were done, his old man had a bullet recasing reload kit. So we would go to the So we reload the bullets. We go buy bullet tips, and he had all the gunpowder and everything, and we had the little scales. Right. We used to reload about 1,000 rounds of ammo, and then just go into the mountains and just fucking shoot shit.
See, that's what you just don't get as an urban. I mean, that you just don't get when you're living in the suburbs. Basically, I was in a town about 35 miles outside of London until I was 18. So a lot of the stuff we did was pretty destructive in the long term, really, and not particularly good for us in terms of learning any real life skills.
But you're young, you're a kid, what you gonna do? Plus you gotta amuse yourself. We can't always be fucking angels. I know. Well, I mean, it wasn't an angel.
But we moved up to the countryside-ish sort of areas when I was about 18, and instantly you appreciate going out and just sitting around, meandering through the woods or whatever, picking up sticks and beating each other with them and all that sort of good stuff. Like and mud missiles. Have you ever played mud missiles? I'm not sure. We've chucked stuff at each other. I'm not sure if it was quite as formal as mud missiles, though.
Shit. We used to do that. Go down to the the lake or the dam or whatever, and you get yourself a nice sort of like bendy piece of stick, and then you cake the mud on the top and throw each other on the other side of the lake to play wars and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun.
See, no, we never. See, that sounds like that. See, again, still, you've got physics and you're learning things from doing this.
Yeah, man.
There's a certain level of skill that you're developing as a result of doing these sorts of things, even when you're messing about as a kid, man. It's fun.
Yeah. No, it's learn through playing is totally. And learn through doing. That's why I think it's so important to I get my daughter involved in building things and helping me out. Because especially now that we're in a time where there's no school or anything, we're gonna let her do her homework, and they all got a homework back, and they have to work through all that. But apart from that, I'm making sausage. I ordered some venison meat, so I'm gonna make some venison sausage next week. and I make the biltong and I bake.
Yeah.
And I started breaking. Man, something I tried today for the first thing I've never tried before. It's fucking delicious. Is because when you've got a sourdough starter, right, you have to keep feeding it, and it keeps growing and it keeps growing. And instead of throwing that starter away,
Right.
heat some oil, chuck that starter in the oil and fry it. Cut some onion and sesame seed on the top. My God, it is delicious. Absolutely delicious. So and the thing about that is it's going to grow every day. It's going to keep growing and growing and growing. So you can have that instead of throwing the starter away. Have that and just keep going at it. It's fucking delicious. So if you want to try that, I would recommend it. It's really just so delicious. You know, throw the starter in the pan. Hey?
What sort of oil do you use with it?
Oh, I use just sunflower oil, or you can use olive oil. Just a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. Chuck it in there, fry that shit. I'm not deep frying anything.
No, just a bit of a shallow pan fry sort of thing. Yeah.
I'll
definitely give that a shot. It sounds delicious.
Give it a go. And sourdough starter is so easy to make. You just put equal amounts flour, equal amounts water, and you just leave it there. That's it, and it starts. Fermenting itself. Does it own, and every day you just feed it. You throw off half of it or whatever, and you just keep feeding it like 50 grams of flour, 50 grams of water every day, and it just grows. Whenever you're ready to bake your sourdough bread, bring it out.
I haven't had much success, man. I'm one of those people who's tried baking bread a few times and has just ended up failing miserably with it.
I don't know what my second attempt at the sourdough was better. It's not quite where I want it to be yet, but it was better. So I'm on the right path, I think.
Right, you're getting there. All right. Well, I might have to tap you up for some tips, man. Like,
I'll send you some videos. There was this good video of this Irish fella talking about sourdough, and he seems quite. Because I tried. A neighbor of mine originally texted me. He's like, "Hey, man, do you want some sourdough starter?" I'm like, sure, why not? And he sent me a video, and I tried the recipe that was on there. Didn't quite work out for me so well, and then I stumbled onto. I went and fucking looked for it. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like that. If I kind of get into something, then I get into it fully. So I went and I searched on YouTube, and I found a bunch of videos, and I looked through them, and I found this recipe to be a bit more of a winner. So I'll pass that video along to you. And
definitely, man. Like
you've got time. Get baking.
Time now. All sorts of time. Like the world stopped essentially. Like all those moments where you were like, oh, why can't the world just stop for a moment so I can do this? And it's here.
It's here. It's happened. Yeah. I saw somebody the other day saying that this is an opportunity that we'll never ever get again.
Nope.
I don't know. We probably won't. But I mean, where the entire world just stopped. That's never happened before.
No.
Ever.
No.
Since we started with the Industrial Revolution, especially.
I mean, the only time it stopped to this extent has been when there's massive destruction afoot in some sort of colossal war, and that's not happening. So even in the wars, people could go to work. There was none of this. People weren't forced had to produce.
People weren't forced to stay home. This is it's an unprecedented situation we're finding ourselves in.
It's crazy. I've been obviously, how it is when you're in these sorts of situations. You're reading and reading and reading, trying to gain some sort of perspective. While at the same time you're aware of the fact that you shouldn't be reading too much. But I've got 40 odd tabs open in one of my internet browsers that are
and 20 of them are porn.
15. I've managed to work my way through 5.
Okay, good. I've never seen the end of the movie.
No. First 10 minutes is all you need, isn't it? You need to maintain some mystery, man. Otherwise the whole world gets bored.
A mate of mine, his cousin, and this is back in the day when we used to have to go to the video store and rent these things.
Oh yeah.
First of all, the embarrassment that goes with it. But this guy, he had a compulsion. Like he had basically worked his way through all the videos that this video store had, and then he came back and he brought the one video to the cashier, and the guy's like, but you've already rented this one. It's like, yeah, but I haven't seen the end yet.
I mean, you got to respect the man's honesty.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Jeez, you think back in the day, my God, how difficult it was for us to get fucking porn.
I remember one of those childhood stories, man. There was a day on the way home from school, and one of the guys that I used to hang around with back in those days, we were in our early teens around there, so this would have been around 94, 95 sort of time. And we were on our way home from school, getting our connecting buses that changed over at the shopping centre. And we'd all gone into the shop. I picked up some sweets and whatnot for the way home. And on our way out, as we're waiting for my mate to come out, the security guard follows him, taps him on the shoulder.
You, sir.
Excuse me, mate, have you got something of ours? And he's inside his school blazer.
Oh, you got something smart. Brilliant.
And I don't think the boy ever lived it down, man. That's what happens. You try and avoid the embarrassment of taking it to the counter and buying for it.
Yeah,
you end up getting rumbled in front of your mates by a security guard.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, you gotta try and do that a little bit better, mate.
yeah. I'm quite pleased to say that was definitely a friend. It wasn't none of those. Yeah. So I'm asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
That could
one of those moments where that could have ended my school reputation if it had been me.
Oh my God!
I think he didn't carry it well. He did become known as a bit of a smut peddler.
Well, he kind of laid the foundation. So, where are you going to go from there? You're the porn guy.
Around really quickly. Exactly. You're
the porn guy. Man, you got some smut for me? Yeah. It's funny how some stories stick with you, and you never live them down. There's a mate of mine who we went to download in 2006. About 6 of us, group of mates. Most of us, we worked together, so we knew each other, but it's not like we were the best of mates. I had two of my best friends there. And as the weekend goes, you kind of like meet each other, and then you lose track of each other, and then you meet each other. And the Sunday afternoon, these two guys are like, "Oh, we got some eckies, and we're just gonna have a good time." We're like, "You guys go for it." We're it's not a clubbing festival; it's fucking download, man. It's metal, bro. Anyway, it's
probably not the right thing.
Yeah, for the
atmosphere. Yeah.
But each to his own. They did their thing, and so Monday morning rolls around, and we're up super early. Sun's baking. It's June, and we're up sort of like 8 a.m. We start making a breakfast, and we start clearing our campsite a bit because we got to evacuate. This guy's tent's closed, and we're like, well, all right, we'll let him sleep a little bit more because we know he's had himself a night. And so about 9:30, like, hey man, you want some breakfast? He's not in his tent. Like, maybe this guy got lucky last night. People are still waking up. Maybe he'll come back from some lady's tent at some stage, because we look in the tent and his cell phone's there, and we're like, oh fucking hell, right? 10 o'clock, guards come around. They're like, guys, you're gonna have to start sort of clearing up, please. And we're like, yeah, cool. We're just waiting for our friend. 11 o'clock, security like, okay, guys, pack it up, pack his tent up. You can wait for him by the gate. We're like, okay. So we pack up his stuff, get our stuff to the gate. And now we're worried because where the fuck is this guy? Most of the people are gone. Campsite's empty. What's going on?
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't phone him because his phone's with us. So I'm go to the hospital tent, go and see if he's there. He's not there. Go to the police tent, see if anybody, anything happened. He's not there. Go back to the hospital tent. Has anybody arrived? Is anything? Nothing. Go back to the police tent. Anybody? And go to the head of security. Nothing. So this is about 12:30, and we're the last people on site. and I'm sitting at the police tent and I'm filling out a missing persons fucking report. Like, got to find this guy. Our friend missing. And as I'm sort of halfway through this, his mate, the phone rings. And he's like, hey, man, so, don't worry about waiting for me. I'm in London. We're like, okay, so what happened? So get this. This guy, he's having a good time, as you do. And on Sunday night, as it happens always at festivals, the dailies get kicked out at sort of like midnight, 1 o'clock. They got to go home now, and the people who are who are camping, they can stick around until the place is closed or whatever. The dailies didn't want to go home. They didn't want the fun to end, so they start shaking fences and just like, and singing, and as it goes. And Andrew's on his way to back to our campsite, and he sees the situation, and there's a security woman. She comes up, she runs up to him, she grabs him by the shoulder, she's like, run away, save yourself. And he flips out. But in a way that he runs to the highway. This is in Derby, right? So he runs to the highway, flags down a taxi. Take me to London. Taxi drives him to London, stops at his house, right? In Acton. Stops at his house. He grabs his passport, throws a few things in a bag. Take me to Heathrow. Fucking taxi driver takes him to Heathrow. He's standing in the queue with his bag, passport. He took his second cell phone at this stage, right? He's got his wallet. Now he's standing in the queue, gets to the front of the queue. Can I get a one-way to Australia, please? Right? It's 600 and something pounds. He takes out his credit card, tries to pay, and because he paid 200 quid for his taxi fare, he didn't have enough money by like 20 or 30 pounds to buy a fucking one-way ticket back to Australia.
Right.
That's when it hit him. He's like, hold on, what am I doing? What am I doing here? And that's when he's like, okay, hold on a second. Maybe I overreacted just a little bit.
Wow,
Goes back out. And that's when he phones us. He's like, so this is what had happened.
Blimey. That's incredible, man.
Yeah, so he's never lived that one down.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He's like, hey, man, you taking any taxi rides recently?
How's that Uber bill looking?
But can you imagine if the payment went through and he kind of woke up halfway to Australia? What am I doing?
I just suddenly realized I didn't need to do that.
I think I might have overreacted a bit.
That's clearly a man who's worried. He might not have any skeletons in his cupboard, but he's worried about having them.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think that security guard must have just she's like, man, I'm going to get this guy because he's tripping balls. He's like, save yourself. And he fucking runs to the highway.
The man's clearly got a plan.
Well, he's definitely fast on his feet. That's for sure.
Oh, he seemed to have done everything correctly there.
Yeah, he was about to leave the country, mate. This fucking place is sinking.
Oh, it's insane. I worry, when somebody's going to do that to me one day and I'll just do the same sort of thing.
Oh, no, I'm sure you've got enough fucking wits about you, mate.
I don't know, man. I'm ready for it. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got a bunch of guns there, so you're super, super ready to go.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you ever go and take the guns out and do some shooting?
No, I think these ones are ornamental, but there are some shots upstairs that I think we're going to take out and just pop off while I'm out here.
Fantastic.
Fun.
Nice, man. Do some clay pigeon shooting or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think. Yeah.
Would you consider hunting? Are you not?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is I'm a carnivore man, even though I'm not supposed to be technically, but I do enjoy eating meat, and I would much rather cook something I killed.
Yeah, man.
It feels like the way to do it rather than, factory farmed or that sort of stuff. That's wrong.
Yeah.
If I can't kill it and eat it, or if I can't eat it and because I killed it myself, then I shouldn't be eating meat, full stop.
Yeah.
Really.
That's
kind of how I see it.
Yeah, well, that's what my old man said to me when I was about 5 years old, I think, and I don't know why. For some reason, I'd seen animals slaughtered before, since I was since I can remember. It's never been a problem. And we've always gone hunting, and we've always, but for some reason it had bothered me. I think it was like a piglet, and he was screaming, and it put me off meat, right, for about 10 days. And then afterwards I started eating meat again. My old man's like, okay, if you want to eat meat, you should be prepared to kill the animal yourself. It's like, fine, give me the gun. So I went to the pig pen and I shot the pig and I sliced its throat, and that was that. I'm like, okay, I can do this. So yeah, I think that's definitely.
It feels like you should be able to do it. You should connect with what you're doing as with what you're consuming. You should be entirely, completely aware of what it is you're consuming.
Yeah, and also, because it gives you an appreciation to not waste these things.
Absolutely.
That's one of the most important things, especially, veggies, they can go back into the ground and all these sorts of things, even though they died, they didn't really die, but if an animal gives its life for you, in whatever way it is, whether you killed it or somebody else killed it, you don't waste that shit, mate. You definitely
absolutely don't. That's another ethos I totally agree with. If it died to get on that plate, then the least you can do is make sure it gets off the plate.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, no, don't waste that. Don't waste something that's given its life for you.
I completely like this. It's rare to find someone who believes that exact same linear pattern of thought. But yeah, completely, man. Like I couldn't agree with that more. If it died to get there, then leave anything else you want. But
that's right. Yeah, veggies can go back in the ground. You can put that in your compost. You can. Yep, 100%. It's it's, and you can reuse these things once you've like cooked stir fried something. You can eat it cold. There's no problem. It's not like it's going to go tough or anything. It's not. It doesn't go off straight away. So yeah, it's definitely it's an important thing to do and to not be wasteful. And I always tell my daughter as well, because I'm 100% honest with her. Where does this come from? That's why I think it's important to involve her when I make the sausage, when I make the biltong, when I make these things. We talk about where the meat comes from, how to handle it, how to process it, to have the respect, because this thing gave its life so that I can live. And also not to take more than you need and all these other sorts of things. But it's definitely important to be connected to that and to know where it comes from.
It's a part of where we come from as a species. It's a part of our nature. It's all there.
Well, I mean, the fact is that when we accidentally started cooking our meat is when our just trajectory shot straight up, where our brains got bigger and our stomachs got smaller. We were able to get the nutrients from the food. In smaller amounts of food, we were able to get more nutrients. We were also able to store our food for longer. So you could do a hunt once a week instead of every day, and then wasting stuff. And then we had the time to start exploring other things. We had the time to start exploring cultivation, domestication of plants and animals, start exploring science and these and those. We had guys who could go and hunt, and then the other guys could, look at the moon or look at the stars. That and magic mushrooms, I think, are the two things that really, and obviously marijuana are the ones that pushed us forward as a species. That we're not.
There's a whole heap of things that really did push us, and like you say, those are three of the main ones right there, man. Definitely.
100%.
The development, what was it, of amylase, the enzyme that allows us to break down cooked food, was one of the most fundamentally important periods in human evolution. And so that was, like you say, it propelled us forward as a species, and made us more biochemically efficient, for want of a better phrase, really. I had this conversation with my daughter yesterday as we were eating.
She asked me if you can survive as a vegan. I'm like, yeah, of course you can, 100%. You can get all the nutrients, you can get all the proteins, everything. You can get it from plants, 100%. But if you look at the difference between a lion and a cow, what does a lion do? They'll go hunt once a week. They'll eat their fill, and then they'll be good. Whereas a cow, all it does all day long is walking to the next spot,
Constantly
biting, chewing, walking to the next spot, biting, chewing, processing, shitting. Then it starts all over again. They have 4 different stomachs to process
so there's an
all
awful
this
lot of
food.
work going on.
A lot of energy is expended in converting all this food, all this foliage into nutrients and into something that we can take from it. Whereas if you concentrate your meals, then you have time to do something else, to concentrate on your hobbies or whatever it is
whatever it is else that you need to concern yourself with.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
Yeah, right. Well, I've got a little one that's here that's looking for attention. I'm gonna do that. So, man, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Enjoy your time
Absolutely.
in the countryside. I'm super jealous of you, but I'm also very, very happy that you've got that. I'm happy for you, and enjoy it for all of us, bro.
We'll do for sure. You know how it is. We'll be raising a little glass for each other every evening, man. So we'll do.
All the best, Will. Thank you so much, man.
Take care, T. All
Cheers,
the best,
brother.
man.
Hey, bye.
Bye.
Right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I have, and that you found something informative in there and maybe some enjoyment, hopefully. I'll be sharing Will's social media as well I do mine, as always. And I have a Patreon page, so if you want to support the podcast, please go to patreon.com/HeySoundGuy. You can help support the podcast there. As always, like, share, subscribe, keep it sound.